Over a year ago now, I quit my LinkedIn lead generation business, which I'd spent about just over 2.5 years working on. This business made me barely any money and really stressed me out and simply just was not great for me. I got into it for the wrong reasons, and that's all I can say. What I ended up then starting is my Stone and Steel game studio, where I now make video games with AI. I enjoy this a lot more, and I've been doing this for the last year and a bit. However, it hasn't made me a lot of money, like at all. For the time I put in, which for reference is over 1,100 hours, because I track that, um, it's been pretty underwhelming, I think, financially wise. And it's been reflecting on basically, that mental state which I have, in the sense of, well, if you were to put 1,100 hours into anything else, even like a 9 to 5, you know I mean, I would have made a lot more money than what I've made now. And mentally speaking, it's that thought about, well, even with all of that, why do you choose to keep going, right? Why do you choose to keep moving forward? And I think this is something which very few people will understand. And for me, it's like, well, I enjoy the sort of thing I do and I can see it working. It's just that it's going to take a bit of time. And a lot of the times, it's just being a bit of a skill issue. So, for example, for my games, I haven't marketed them well enough, right? The videos I've been doing are okay, but they, like on my devlog channel and stuff, but they're just not as entertaining as they should be. And it's trying to find those little things that you can actually be accountable for and make those adjustments for to keep going. Because what I'm finding is that, like, I've had many people online and even a few sort of people close to me that have basically, you know, been telling me that the sort of thing I'm doing is not something that I should do, right? That I should, maybe do something else, or I could consider something else, but that's not really the sort of thing I want to live. And it's kind of crazy how much we often listen to what other people say, and we just you go, oh yeah, well that makes sense. But in reality, it's like, you know, you're going to die, so live life on your own terms. And that's sort of something which I've very much stuck with myself, because, I would rather I spent the next 5 years working on, making the games with AI, for it to not work out, but then not have the regret that I didn't try, right? And again, I find it hard to believe. I mean, I've only been working on the AI stuff for about just over a year. I find it hard to believe that, 5 years' time, I'd be in a worse spot than I am now. But it's something to think about, because when I reflect on going, well, this hasn't really made me much money at all. And, I'm still living at home. I do have one client from my LinkedIn lead gen business, which is still paying me, which is why I can do this without necessarily having to do a job. It has just been reflecting on, just basically what are the thoughts moving forward, right? And, this can go for you as well. Like when you're down in the dumps, or, when you really feel like you're just not getting anywhere, it's the question of, well, why do you keep going? And I think for me, a lot of it is thinking about, well, what's the life I don't want to have? Right? What's the life I don't want to have? Effectively what's going to happen if I stay in this situation? And for me, it was the very tough conversation of, if I keep doing what I'm doing, for example, for the AI game dev channel I have in terms of the videos, I am probably never going to make it work. Right? Something has to change. The videos have to be better. I have to get more people invested in the story, in the game that I'm making, which is stuff I'm obviously still working on. But it's having that tough conversation. And yeah, maybe if I spend the next 10 years doing the same thing, I might get closer. But yeah. So that's sort of what I've been thinking about. Let me know your thoughts as well, because I think if you're working on something which you've been spending a lot of time on, a lot of your energy on, and maybe you feel like it, or perhaps other people feel like you're wasting time on it, I think a lot of the time they're just asking yourself what you don't want, right? And figuring out what you don't want will help you understand what you do want. And for me, leaving, for the most part, that LinkedIn lead gen business, I didn't want to deal with clients. I didn't want to deal with sales calls and stuff. And I also didn't want to deal with just doing mundane repetitiveness. But for me, like, I enjoy things that are creative, like being able to make games with AI and just like that sort of stuff, being able to make projects of my own. So something to think about. But yeah, let me know if you've been working on anything for a long time and it's been really struggling to pay off. Because I think I think about the emotional cycle of change graph. I think I talked about this last video, but the idea that effectively, you've got that valley of despair at the very bottom. And it is just that valley of despair which gets a lot of people. It's that point where things just really feel rubbish and you don't know if it's going to work out. But all I can really say is keep at it, keep pushing, stay accountable to yourself. Ideally, get other people to keep you accountable if possible. And yeah, we'll just make it work.